Welcome to the NCDWI Guy podcast, where defenders of the Constitution assemble to prepare for courtroom battle and firm owners gather to develop marketing strategies that will revolutionize the practice of criminal defense. Here's your host, the NCDWI Guy, Jake Minnick.
Hello, fellow freedom fighters, and welcome to episode 104 of the NCDWI Guy podcast. On today's episode, we got Texas in the house. It's real gunslinging time today. Texas in the house. College Station attorney Craig Greening is on to talk to us about the evolution of his law practice and how to compete in a large market. Craig founded Greening Law in 2010. Prior to opening his own practice, he was a former district attorney. He prosecuted DUI, felony cases, and other complex criminal charges. He's been practicing law for over 20 years and has earned a reputation as an aggressive litigator and fierce advocate. He is a board-certified specialist in criminal trial law. He's also the author of the Fifth Circuit Criminal Handbook, which is a comprehensive and useful handbook, the product of years of careful study and practical application of Fifth Circuit criminal decisions. Craig and I met in a coaching program through Chris Video. Every time that I have talked to Craig, I've been blown away by his passion in representing his clients, in helping his team grow, and the way in which he has built his law practice. Great conversation with Craig, and I hope you enjoy.
So maybe if you want to just give a little bit of a background in terms of why you kind of decided to go into law school, or what made you decided to practice law in the first place.
It was kind of a weird road to practicing law. I was a mechanical engineering major in undergrad, and had this fantasy that I was going to be this cool patent lawyer. So I went to law school. I actually put a deposit down on NYU Law School because I was at Boston University in Boston.
Okay.
And UT in Austin gave me a scholarship. So I was like, well, screw that. I'm going to
yeah, go where the money is.
So I ended up in Austin, and then I remember after my first year, I clerked for a firm that did patent work, and I realized how tremendously boring patent law is.
I have very little exposure to that, so I can't really speak to that. I definitely thought I looked at one point just out of curiosity, not really out of interest, about what that looked like, and I think that most people did like an additional year or got an LLM in tax law or something like that if they wanted to go that route. And so I just thought, no more school if I could help.
Yeah, and the patent law, I think you have to pass a patent bar and do all this other stuff, a separate bar exam. Anyway, so I worked as an engineer while I was in law school at a semiconductor company called Motorola. You're familiar with Motorola probably. And then I had little jobs here and there doing engineering work, and I ended up with an engineering or a semiconductor firm in Dallas right out of law school. That market crashed soon after. And so layoffs were starting to happen. I knew the lawyer was going to be the first one, right?
That's right.
So then I was like, let me go be a prosecutor for a few years. I always wanted to be a trial lawyer. So then I ended up at the prosecutor's office in this county, which is called Brazos County in Bryan, College Station, Texas. Did that for a few years. And, my background in life was really, I grew up with a brother that was paralyzed from birth and had some mental issues. And some of my fondest memories when I was a child, he was involved in Special Olympics and he would compete. And I remember some of my fondest moments were going out there and helping people that didn't have all the same strengths as me. They couldn't walk, or their mind didn't function as sharply as mine did. And I just remember getting the joy of helping people be happy and be competitive and play sports and just have fun in life. And so when I was a prosecutor, I was thinking back to those days because I really like to help people. I was a kid that, you can ask my parents, I'd always bring the stray cat or dog home. felt bad for him. And so when I was a prosecutor, I kind of got tired of putting people in prison all the time. I just punishing people, and I just didn't feel like I was helping anybody. And so that's why I made the decision to become a defense attorney, and how rewarding that's become over the last, what's been 16 years now, 17 years.
I think that's a good thing to maybe just reflect on, because we have had, prosecutors that have listened in the past. I think it's helpful for defense attorneys sometimes to kind of understand that psyche and what is going on for lawyers that are sitting at the other table. I'm in a district that has a pretty collegial bar, but at the same time, it is really a different, especially in district court, where you don't have a ton of victims on a case if you're in traffic court or whatnot. And there's not really anybody that you are kind of there to share a win with. Even when you win a case, it's just kind of like on to the next one, right? Like, on to the next moment. And there's never that kind of powerful moment of having like this life-changing experience in somebody's life that you do get to experience pretty regularly, whether it's plea or trial with a client. I mean, the impact that this has on an individual's life, and you get to go to bat for them. It is somewhat missing in a lot of cases for the state. And so I think it's just good to reflect on that and kind of understand some of the difficulty that prosecutors face from that standpoint.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, and then you have a policy in your office that says, if somebody's a drug addict and they mess up on probation, we got to send them to prison.
Right.
And I just wasn't a believer in that. I didn't want to give up on these people that are addicted to drugs. I didn't think we needed to be filling our prison system up with drug users.
Right.
And so that's really being on this side of it. I get this joy when I get a letter from a client from 10 years ago and saying, "Hey, you saved my life. Now I'm worth $4 million, and
yeah, that's awesome.
By the way, I bought a house in your neighborhood."
Yeah, that's super cool. I mean, it really is. I mean, the impact that you can have on individuals is really, really powerful. I mean, and I think it's something that we very much undervalue. It's the reason that I love practicing on the criminal defense side of things. Anytime I ever hear of there being like a prosecutor opening or a judicial race, I'm always thinking to myself, why would anybody want to do that? Because there just is such a love to me of being able to interact with people. I mean, it's just such a rewarding experience to have that in the courtroom.
I still wish I had the subpoena power they have, though.
That's right. Yeah.
I can get a grand jury together and get a bunch of subpoenas. But yeah, it was fun being a prosecutor, but I'm sure glad I'm doing this now. It's super rewarding. That's kind of what our motto in our firm is, winning in the courtroom and in life.
That's awesome. I love that.
We stress that, we want to win in the courtroom, but we also want everybody, including ourselves and clients, to win in life and like have a good life after your engagement with me is over.
Yeah, that's awesome. When you decided to go out on your own, what did that kind of look like in terms of transition? Because obviously there's a huge transition from working, representing the state and kind of the prosecutorial mindset versus defense. But I think the even bigger leap is trying to figure out how to get clients and the marketing and all of that side of things. So what did that kind of transition period look like for you as you kind of went out on your own?
Yeah, when I left the DA's office, I ended up joining a firm and became partners for about 6 years with probably one of the best criminal defense lawyers in our area, and maybe in the state. His name is Jim James. And we were partners for about 6 years, and then he decided it was time for him to start pushing towards retirement. And I decided that I didn't want to be partners with 3 or 4 different people, because there was three partners at the time in that firm. So I decided to start my own firm. And so I took my secretary and myself, and we went and hung a shingle. And that was back in 2010.
Okay.
And so.
So there was a little bit of like a learning experience too, because how long had he been practicing for?
Back then, 2010. Yeah. So it was I was licensed in 2000, so 10 years at that point.
But I guess your partner, how long had he been practicing?
Oh, since the early 70s.
Okay, so he had kind of a good firm going at that point then.
It was a great firm, but we didn't do any marketing.
Okay.
It was based on his name, referrals, word of mouth. And that's the way I started my firm. I referrals, word of mouth, but then I started figuring out I'm making the same money every year.
Right.
And I'm trying 25 to 30 cases a year to jury trial, some of them major felonies, a lot of DWIs and things like that. And I started getting pretty stressed out, gaining weight. And I started trying to figure out a way out. And I think that was about 2015 timeframe, 2014, 2015 timeframe, where I'm just like, hey, I need to have less cases, less stress. And that's when I realized I needed to grow. It's kind of a weird, most people want to grow for money or other things. I wanted to grow to have less on my plate. So I decided to hire a lawyer, my first lawyer. So now it was a firm of 3. It wasn't until, I still was on the word of mouth bandwagon though. I'm the best lawyer, so I'm gonna get all the cases.
Yeah.
What I didn't realize is that that's not going to happen. You can be the best lawyer, but nobody knows you're the best lawyer. Some people do, but nobody out there really knows. So in order to get all the cases, you got to be the best known lawyer. And so I started thinking about that, but I didn't know how to make it happen. And then I think everything changed for me when I went to the Game Changer Summit in 2019. And I saw, I'm sure a lot of your listeners have been to that summit, but it just,
I try to get people to go. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's great. But I got inspired there by not just Michael Mogul, but all the lawyers that were around me there.
Yes.
That was important. You were one of them. And signed up for that coaching program. Took the big leap. It's an expensive leap, but it was a big leap. And then that's one that you can lose sleep over for sure.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of went from there. I just transformed the way I thought about marketing. I started to get on social and SEO and YouTube videos and things like that. And then the Chris videos, of course, too. And that's when 2019 is when I really changed my thinking. And so since 2019, our revenue has gone up 2.5 times. So just
that's
2 years.
Amazing.
So, and we're looking to double again this year. So it's just that when you get into thinking, I got to hire, I got to bring on more lawyers, I got to grow, but you also got to market, you got to spend the money on that too.
Yeah. I think that, one of the reasons why there are so few people that maybe step up to that next level is when you've been practicing law for 15 years, like you had been, and obviously had a good thing going, had plenty of clients in the door, tons of cases going to trial. I think it's relatively easy to kind of just sit back and say, hey, this is working. I'm getting plenty of cases in the door. I'm making a good living. And, I think that's where a lot of lawyers kind of end up several years into practice, is that they've got enough clients coming in the door. And, there's no, maybe you're not making a 7-figure salary, but I mean, there's very few criminal defense attorneys that do that anyway. So it's just kind of like, I'm making a good living doing what it is that I'm doing. And I think it really almost does require some sort of additional motivation to want to grow. And like you said, the growth on your end was out of this idea that I kind of want to have less on my plate. I want to be able to focus on certain things that I'm really good at. And the only way to be able to kind of dive deep into those areas, whether it's, I just want to try cases, and that's really all I want to do. I don't want to deal with the marketing. I don't want to deal with, some of the phone issues, don't want to deal with accounting. I just want to try cases, or I want to focus in on the business and kind of be able to grow my team and the culture that we're trying to bring on. If you want to do that kind of deep, that deep dive into that specific area of focus, you have to have that growth occur first. And so I mean, I really do think that I think that's one reason why there is this high stress in the legal profession is because there's so few people that kind of recognize that, because it seems on the outside like everything's going pretty good. Again, you've got clients coming in the door, the phone is ringing too much. There's too many calls coming in, an unanswerable amount of calls coming in. You've got the caseload going on in the courtroom, but it's just, there's so many fires going on all at one time. And that, I think, really does cause a lot of friction for people.
But I think what it also evolved into for me is that we give a great service, and we do a great job for our clients. And every prosecutor you run into says, yeah, they work for their client. They fight for them. They always, have really good outcomes in their cases. We just got not guilty this week on an injury to a child case that involved a principal basically trying to get a kid out of the school, and the kid fought him and then he got hurt. But so, we get these great results. I wanted to be able to give that same level of service to not just people in my region, but other regions too, across the state.
Right.
And because when I travel across the state, and I have cases all over the state of Texas, and then I have one in Seattle right now. I have one in Iowa. But when I travel, I see these horrible lawyers. I mean, not trying to badmouth the profession, but I see people that just don't fight for their client, and they don't care, and they're just there to get their little fee. And some of them don't even know what they're doing. And so my idea was, if I can grow and I can spread the kind of service that we give to our clients, it's going to be better for the legal profession overall.
Totally agree with that.
And better for the people that are being accused of crimes. So,
yeah, I totally agree with that. I think the best way to change the legal profession, there's so many of us in law school that hear kind of conversations about that, or that we have within our bar about, kind of how do we impact the legal profession. I think if you bring your A game to the courtroom every day and other people are seeing that, it cannot help but have an impact on how other people are trying cases, because you've kind of set the new standard, right? Like that, whatever you're doing well becomes what everybody in the courtroom is going to be expecting, the judge, the prosecutor. And so anything that is kind of beneath that, there's a comparison going on. And so for me, the goal to get better as a team very much is also for the benefit of the profession. Again, it's not to kind of separate ourselves from other lawyers. We want to be the best that we are. We're not going to try to compare ourselves to everybody else in the profession, other than to kind of look at what other people are doing well. But instead of this like separation, it's like, hopefully we're going to just kind of pull everybody up in the same direction through that better representation. I think that's a huge point.
And definitely, I have lawyers that come to me all the time, especially on blood test cases, because a lot of lawyers don't understand how to challenge a blood test.
Yes.
But I'll sit them down and I'll go through the records with them, and I won't even charge them, and say, hey, let me show you where the error is always made. And let me help you learn. And I'll give them my, I don't know if you went to Axion Labs for their training up there, but they have a great training on blood test cases.
Okay.
And it's up in Chicago. If anybody wants information on that, let me know, just shoot me an email. But I got this great training up there, but not everybody can afford to go do that or has the time to go do it. And some lawyers don't even know it exists. And so I'm here to help anybody. I want everybody in the profession to be good. I share all my information, any kind of, I don't keep secrets. I'm an open book. So I always tell every lawyer, just give me a call if you're having difficulties. I'll be more than willing to help you out, because I want everybody to have good representation. And there's plenty of cases out there. We don't need to fight over, who's going to get what and how. I don't want to give you my secrets because I don't want you to do better than me. I'm confident that I'm going to do a great job in every time I get in the courtroom. So I'm willing to share that wealth of knowledge with anybody that asks. So.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is just a kind of move from law school and the legal profession to maybe being a less competitive environment. It's still competitive, but maybe less competitive environment, or the fact that the internet has kind of opened up so many venues or avenues of information that you can kind of get this information everywhere. But it seems that there's more and more lawyers that have that kind of a mindset of, whatever, I can kind of give information wise, or whatever practical tips that I can give. There seems to be more and more of an openness on that front to share, and less of this kind of competitive, like, hey, I'm not going to talk to you about your case. Again, the bar where I practice in is very collegial, and it's a nice change from I spent first year out of law school doing a good amount of civil work with the firm that I was at, and it was just nasty. Everybody was always cutthroat and didn't want to share any information, and no working together on anything. And it's one of the nice things to me about the criminal defense bar is there is this real openness to how can we, and maybe it is also because it's people based. How can we kind of make people's lives better as a group? So I think that is a huge point of advantage for everybody when there's more and more of that kind of information sharing that happens.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. And we do have a great community around here. And actually our town, we're probably a town of 300,000, and you get the students an extra 100,000. But we have a lot of really good lawyers in Bryan College Station area. And I'm proud to be a member of the bar here. So.
Well, I guess in terms of that move out on your own and, starting to try to grow, what was your thought process in terms of how to do that? Because obviously that's a big area, big metropolitan area that you were kind of trying to grow into. So it's not really easy to kind of get into your SEO footprint or whatever marketing means that you kind of are going through. I mean, it's a big market. So what did that look like in terms of that shift once you decided, hey, I'm gonna grow?
Yeah, so I guess that was 2019. I think it was just with that SEO. So we still hadn't had LSA ads, local services ads here until last summer. So I think for me it was just being
that's when we got into that as well. Yeah,
right. And so for me it was just being ahead of the curve. So I noticed that a lot of lawyers, when I would do something, they would also do it, but it would be a few months later, right, or maybe 6 months later. So when I started doing a lot of SEO, then I saw a lot of other lawyers start doing it. I just wanted to always be ahead. So educating yourself on it and knowing what to do. That's one of the things the coaching program at Chris helped me with. I also get coached by SMB team. I don't know if you ever heard of them.
I have, yeah.
And they do a really good job with some of the marketing principles.
Okay.
Just being constantly educated about it. And then I ended up deciding, I'm going to hire a marketing director to come in. And now we have a marketing director that does not the big picture stuff, but the grassroots campaigns and the content. So now all of our social has content all the time. And I think it's just, you got to bombard the public. So when I go out now to eat, 2 years ago, people would see me and they know who I am because I'm a lawyer in town. But now when I go out to eat, it's constant. Hey, I know you. You're on TV, or I know you're on YouTube, or, oh, you're on my social media all the time. I can't get rid of you. And so what we've seen, where I used to have a 95% referral practice, to now 75% of my practice is coming in from advertising, marketing, and it's continuing to grow. So I think at this time last year we were only getting 60 leads a month, which is still pretty high.
Right. No, that is.
Before. Now we're 200 leads a month.
Wow, that is wild.
And that's just, but it takes time. People don't realize that you're not going to jump into this marketing space and all of a sudden become an instant overnight success. I started all this back in January of 2020. And so it took a little time. You get the Chris videos going, you get the YouTube short videos going. It takes time to build up. So it was almost exponential, but it was slow in the beginning. And so you got to have patience with it. I think a lot of people give up. And especially when I started doing all this in January 2020, and then all of a sudden on March 16th, everything shut down.
Yeah.
And that was scary. And then I had a talk with Michael Mogul about, man, I don't know what to do. This is scary because the courthouses are closed and the phones aren't ringing. And he told me to double down on marketing. And I was like, what? My wife's going to kill me if this bank account goes to zero. And
crazy genius.
Shit, if it didn't work, man. If it didn't work, because in July 2020, we had our best month of the firm ever. And it's only because nobody else was marketing.
Yeah.
And we doubled down and doubled our marketing dollars. And then so when we came out of and Texas came out a lot earlier than most people. I mean, we were having jury trials in July 2020. But when we came out of the pandemic, well, not the pandemic, but the actual quarantine, all of a sudden we were the one that everybody was calling.
Yes.
And because we were the one that, everybody's on their phone at home looking at social, and, the green loggers popping up on their phone nonstop. And so when they got in trouble and they wanted to go party after the quarantine was over and the bars opened back up, they were calling us. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think it is so important to just stay up to date on that kind of stuff. Like you're saying, educate yourself, because it becomes much easier to pull the trigger on marketing opportunities if you have at least, I'm by no means, some SEO guru or, technological specialist. I mean, that's, definitely not the, I don't come from some sort of marketing background, but I think just constantly trying to educate yourself on that stuff and be around other people that have more information that you do, whether that's through coaching or being involved with other attorney groups like you were just mentioning. I mean, that is a huge advantage, because when you get there first, you really do have a massive competitive advantage. Even if everybody is going to get there, like you said, a couple of months later, that knowledge that you are already accumulating by kind of being in that new outlet. Google local service ads are kind of a good example of that. If you're kind of first to that, first of all, you don't have as much competition, but secondly, you just get to start playing with it and kind of understanding how that is working and discerning which leads are good leads and which are not, and that type of thing. So, the faster that you get those new avenues figured out, or at least kind of become aware of them, massive competitive advantage. And so just spending that regular time learning about that stuff is so important to growing your practice.
Yeah, I agree. I think the other thing that people don't focus on too is client experience. We have a client experience team here. I think 4 people in our firm are on that team. And what we started this client experience team in June 2020. And back in June 2020, we had 40 Google reviews. And then once that team got going and we started really locking in on how the client experience and making sure they enjoyed their experience with us, and that we were successful in helping them out. We are now at, I think, 268 Google.
Wow, that is
reviews,
wild.
and we're 4.9.
That's crazy.
Most of them are 5-star. Every once in a while you get some competitor to throw a 1-star in there, and then sometimes you have unhappy clients. I mean, it happens, but we're at 4.9 with 268 reviews, and we have a goal this quarter to get to 500. So we'll see what happens.
That's amazing. Yeah. What in terms of that focus on client experience, what sparked that in terms of that being a focus? And then what does that team that meets kind of, what does that look like, or what developments have kind of come out of that focus on the client experience?
Well, I think it all started when you start getting more clients, you start having more upset clients. And I started realizing I don't want to deal with upset clients. I want them to be happy.
Yeah.
And so we started that team to really kind of look at how do we make their experience better. I think I made the whole team read that Joey Coleman book on the first 100 days.
That's awesome. That book is amazing. And he's such an amazing speaker, but it's a really powerful reflection on how important it is to come out firing on that front.
Yeah. And he's a former criminal defense lawyer, so he's perfect.
He
knows our pain.
He does.
But so we started focusing on that. So now what we do, we realized we need to hire an intake team. So we hired an intake team, and we needed to train them. So we sent them to sales trainings and how to handle objections when people are calling in and saying, well, why should I hire Craig Greening for all this money on a DWI when I can go get the other guy for $2,000? And so how do you handle those objections on the phone? And then also just like when somebody walks through our door or first calls us, first point of contact. I had a person hire me the other day and he said, you know what, why I hired you? And I was like, I don't know why. And she goes, not because you're a good lawyer, but because your team treated me so well. I felt so comfortable from the very first time I called to the first time I walked through your front door. And so we really concentrate on those kind of things, the customer service side that a lot of lawyers don't even think about. And then we have automations that we use a software called Lawmatics for our CRM and intake software. But it also, once you hire us and you convert to a client, it has a drip campaign to you. How do you dress for court? What are the steps of a DWI? And it's all infographics. So
that's awesome.
Love infographics.
They do. Visual is so powerful.
Pictures. Yeah. So it's all infographics. And, if it's a DWI, it goes into a DWI phase of like educating you through the stages of the DWI. If it's, so we're working on those kind of things to keep because I think the biggest problem we have is people say, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what to expect. And so we've been trying to contact them as many times as possible. Sometimes by automation, but sometimes by an actual paralegal reaching out to them and say, hey, we received the discovery. Your lawyer will be looking at it in the next 2 weeks. We'll schedule an appointment with you. And so we realize that people just want information because they're used to getting fed information all the time. With the way our society works now, they think that they should be able to get online and text you and you should respond immediately. So we've had to kind of transition in like different softwares to kind of help us manage all that.
That's amazing. I think that one of the, powerful things about kind of the way that you guys are doing the client experience is really investing in your team in terms of that training and, sales or customer experience. We do a lot of internal trainings at our office on kind of various aspects of criminal law with the staff included so that they kind of have a good understanding of what's going on, whether it's procedural in terms of the court process or actual substantive questions about a legal issue or limited driving privilege, whatever it might be. But outside of kind of internal focus and, some of the crisp events and that type of thing, we haven't had a lot of external training in terms of those sales and other opportunities for the staff. What are you guys doing in terms of your staff, kind of giving them those growth opportunities?
Yeah. So we have been sending some of our team members to the crisp experience.
Awesome.
Classes. So that's really good. If you're a member of the coaching program, I think one of your employees is included in that experience.
Yeah,
program.
That's great.
And then SMB team has a great, what they call Sales University.
Okay.
It's a bunch of YouTube videos that help you handle objections. And they're supposed to be expanding that pretty soon. So if you're a member of their group, you get access to all that. I also use Masterclass. .com.
I was looking at that actually came up in a feed the other day with some opportunities that seemed like it would be good for staff. So I was kind of, that's cool to hear that.
Yeah, it seems kind of trendy, but there's a really good sales training on there. And then we have a book club every month for the entire firm.
That's awesome.
And then we also, sometimes our teams will have their own book club. And I think that happens every 3 months. So we'll sign a book that we think that will help them, be a better team member. And so like if you're an intake person, it's definitely gonna be a sales oriented book. If you're on a client experience team, it's going to be something like Joey Coleman's book. My marketing girl, I'm looking over her desk right now. I see about 30 books on marketing. I've actually assigned her in the last 2 years, and I think she's read them all. Hopefully, I don't know, but.
Yeah, it's so funny. I mean, this is something that Crisp definitely hammers, is this idea that, if you're not kind of allowing your team members to grow, that, you're very much stunting your own growth as well. And that's something that I think has been not only beneficial to clients, kind of that focus on education within the team, but it's also very energizing for everybody. I mean, it's just something that kind of shared growth of everybody kind of working to elevate the experience, elevate their own knowledge about how a particular criminal case works, to understand a little bit better the marketing and the branding that we're doing and how that fits into everything else that is going along the way. Those are so powerful in terms of just kind of bringing your team together, those shared, and I mean, it sounds silly, the book club, but we've done a couple of those, book club moments. We have a quarterly book that we read, and we've kind of gotten a little bit away from actually meeting and discussing it. So we need to get back to that. But we did that a couple of times, particularly during the pandemic. We discussed a couple of books, and it was just amazing, the kind of creativity and team value that created by having those shared educational opportunities.
Yeah, I think when I assigned Cy Wakeman's book,
we did. Yeah, we did the same thing. That's funny.
It's funny, after they read the book, they go, "Now we know why you've been acting like that with us." Because they'll come in and complain to me, and I'm like, always would say, "Well, what do you think will make this better?" Yeah. And like, "Oh, why are you flipping this around on me?" When they read the book, they understood where I got that from.
That's so funny. I took, I think we had about 10 team members down at the last CRISP conference. And I think the 2019, they had offered right after the conference, you could buy all your tickets for the next conference at a really discounted price. So I was just like, well, I'm just going to buy a bunch of them and see what happens. So we took a good amount of the team down there, but I felt like after that, they were all just looking at me like, so that's where it all came from, like that. You don't have any original thoughts, do you? I was like, nope, that's it. That's it. So, but it's so important, I think, to have those moments of shared growth at the office. And again, I think if you want if you're trying to improve your bottom line or grow your business, the best way to do that is to grow your team, individually, personally grow, and then professionally grow your team, because they're the ones that are hopefully doing a good amount of the most important work, especially when it comes to client handholding and interaction with clients specifically. That's just so important to not lose sight of that.
No, I agree wholeheartedly. Yeah, we definitely invest in our team. And we started a kind of a continuing education program in the firm too. It's not mandatory, but if you do it, we give out prizes and things for people to get when you reach a certain point level. And so it's been kind of fun to watch people just want to do it, want to do the continuing education. And then it's fun to give out the prizes too. Like I think the last one I gave out was a round trip ticket or something like that.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I guess in terms of the growth of the firm, whether that's just since 2019 or just kind of in stages before that, from, going all the way back to 2010, what are some of the moments where there was kind of like a light bulb that went on that's like, okay, now this particular, whether it's maybe a book that you read or something that you came across or software, what would be some, kind of life-changing or practice-changing moments along that path?
I probably would say that I think March 16, 2020 was the game-changing moment for our firm, because it was a scary time, but that also yes. I had to decide what path the firm was going to take, because here I had all these dreams of growth.
Yes,
but now we're in a pandemic and everything's closed, and what do I do? And I remember I got on my hustle during that time. I started representing smoke shops that were shut down, and I had a doctor, a physician, write an affidavit stating that CBD is for medical purposes, and because one of the exceptions is you could be open if you were
medicinal.
If you had medicinal, if what you were providing to the public had some kind of medicinal purpose.
Interesting.
And so I had smoke shops in Texas that hired me, and I was making money, and I was opening all these smoke shops because I would basically send a letter to the city saying, "Hey, you're violating the governor's mandate. Please open them up." And they'd resist for a little while, and then I say, "Well, I guess I'll just have to file a lawsuit." And then they would back off and say, "Yeah, you can open." And then what we would do in every city that we that open up let the smoke shops open, we donate a couple thousand KN95 masks to them, because we had the smoke shop guy that I was dealing with had a connection with China to get all these masks. And
That's
so
crazy.
So it was great. It was a great marketing thing, because
Yeah,
I'm on TV giving masks to the police.
that's so awesome. That's wild.
And I ended up doing that all over the country. I even had some smoke shops in Monterey, California that I got reopened. So it was a lot of fun, but it was like getting on your hustle and then realizing that maybe you need to open up other practice areas and things like that, or expand into other things or concentrate on other things. So we got really, it made us focus a lot on other things like expunctions and things that we can do where you don't have to be in court all the time to make things happen. We started thinking about estate planning and added an estate planning arm to our firm, which we're actually still working on. And I think it goes live in March. And so, but that made me think about all that, thinking, oh, criminal defense could go away for a while. What do? We got to find other things to do. And I think that was really the pivotal moment for our firm. And because of that thought process, because of what I was thinking back then, we shot up in growth big time. We started hiring more people. I think when the pandemic hit, we only had 4 employees. Now we're at like 12. Yeah, we're at 12 employees. So it's, so if we went from this little small, tiny firm to being now 12 and two and a half times the revenue we were making back then.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's funny that you say that, because, very much a shared experience in terms of, middle of March 2020 being a kind of massive ultimate value to us. And again, obviously, it's not to kind of minimize all the hurt and the different things that people had to deal with during that time frame. And I can't say that I wasn't scared, both from like a health side of things, but also like firm side of things during that initial time frame. But it really ended up being this amazing opportunity for us to spend daily time together as a team. We're all over North Carolina, and so the only way that we interact on a regular basis is through Zoom. Anyways, I mean, that's the only. So we just had this opportunity for daily huddles that we weren't doing prior to that, and opportunity to look at what our long-term strategic plans were, focus in on our core values and brand promises, and really kind of get into the culture of the office and really make that a major focus. And the kind of team camaraderie that came out of that by the summer of 2020 really was like the springboard into 2021. That same thing for us was, the best year of our firm existence, because of the fact that we had kind of done all of that kind of culture building during the early stages of the pandemic. So I think it's a really good, way to kind of look at opportunities that exist. And, does it become something that is this, total, point of depression and fear, and you just can't overcome that? Or is it this kind of opportunity to try something bigger, different, grow your practice areas, grow your team, whatever it might be? I really do think that is such a good indicator of the health of an organization, is what happens during those kind of times of crisis.
Yeah, and that's exactly the time we implemented our EOS system. If you're not familiar with that, is an entrepreneurial operating system, I believe, and it really changed the way that we have meetings, and we have an accountability chart now, not an organizational chart. And so, who am I accountable to? That really made us more efficient, more lean as a firm, because I don't want to hear about everything that's going on in the firm. You just need, whoever you're accountable needs to know about that.
Right.
It really cut the noise out of myself as an entrepreneur, and allowed me to be more of a visionary, and not have to deal with the daily grind of well, Becky said this, or Karen said that, or whatever. It's like it kind of cut the noise out for me. And I don't think that would have happened if it would have been for the pandemic and having a couple months of downtime, and like, what do I do with my time now? And well, let's get this ship rowing in the same direction. And
What do you guys use? Is there a particular platform that you use for that US system, or what is it that you guys use?
We were using this software called 90 iOS.
Okay.
Or 90 IO, I'm sorry. But we just do it on Google Sheets. We log all of our level 10 meetings. Level 10 meetings just basically keeps you on time.
Okay.
Like, you don't waste a bunch of time in a meeting. So you only spend so many minutes on this. You leave your issue spotting for the end of the meeting. So if you have issues that you have to deal with, problems in the firm, you deal with those at the end of the meeting. But you're also always looking at your quarterly, so they call them quarterly rocks. Those are your quarterly goals.
Yes.
Always looking at your quarterly rocks at every meeting to determine whether are we on pace for that? What do we need to do to get there? And we always assign 6 quarterly rocks a quarter that we unleashed before the quarter, and they're assigned to like marketing department, intake department, litigation, hiring. It can be any department, but we have 6 of them, and then you reverse engineer backwards and decide, how am I going to get there? What do I need to do to get there? So our goal was to have 600 leads this quarter. And we go, well, how are we going to get there? Well, I got to spend more money on marketing. That's simple. And we got to do more marketing, more social media content. Now they got me doing TikToks,
That's awesome.
What's great, our marketing director, she's in her 20s. She's got college students working for her that are in their 20s. And so they're keeping me relevant.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's a great platform to win at because there's just so little kind of similar noise on that. I mean, yeah, maybe there is a lot of noise on the platform, but in terms of kind of being able to see a lawyer on that platform, there's not a lot of that to compete with. I mean, that it is growing. So, I mean, there actually is quite a few people on the platform, but it's a much easier place to compete for attention than Facebook or some other, platform that's been around a lot longer. So yeah, it's right. Yeah, no, I think that those quarterly rocks are so important. We started using a lot of kind of the forms produced by Scaling Up, including the 1-page strategic plan during the pandemic. And that was, that's a major focus on their end, are those quarterly rocks. And I mean, I think if you can have it's kind of amazing what you can accomplish in a 3-month period if you're just intentional about it. If you have, these priorities set up and you talk about them regularly and you have people that are assigned to kind of keep those goals on track, it's really kind of remarkable. There's things that we've had as quarterly rocks that I thought, this will help us take a leap towards the 1-year goal. And then by the end of the quarter, we've kind of like met the 1-year goal, just by that intentional focus, you're able to just go light years from where you kind of maybe might expect that you could go. So yeah, that focus is, I think, a huge point if you're trying to grow your firm.
Yeah. And I think it's also important to reflect back the next quarter and say, well, what went wrong? Why didn't I reach that rock? Because we don't reach every rock every time.
Right.
Some of them I make them so obscene that they're unreachable. But why didn't we get there? And then that's the learning experience when you're creating your new rocks. Like, what did I learn from the previous quarter? And what are we going to do different so we can get there next time? That's why they're so important to me. And we have our 1-year goal, or 3-year goals, or 10-year goals, and all that. But those are just different. I mean, your employee, your team members are not going to think about those goals ever. Right. But they will think about a quarterly rock. They will.
Yeah, I think that
everybody has a rock in their office too to remind them. So we gave them, when we first did the EOS system, we gave everybody a rock. So
I love that. No, that's super. That's super cool. I think that connecting those quarterly goals to the longer goals, to the big, hairy, audacious goal 10 years down the road, or however far down, to your 3 to 5 year goal, your annual goal. I think it's important for people to see what the purpose of the quarterly goal is and how it fits into that kind of bigger picture of what we're moving towards. But I totally agree that if you just had the big, hairy, audacious goal and 3 to 5 year goal, people would be like, well, I don't know how we're going to get there. So it doesn't really change my life at all. Like, I mean, there's no difference in that. Those quarterly rocks are really what are the driving force towards that kind of long-term plan. And that was something that we just I completely missed out on for the longest time. Even once I got intentional enough to look more than like a week ahead in my own life and in the firm's life to future goals and where I wanted it to go long term. I knew that, but my team didn't know that, and they certainly didn't know how to contribute and how to kind of get to that, kind of bigger picture goal. And those quarterly rocks are what gets you to that place. Well, I think, maybe a good place to end, Craig, would be, in terms of our audience, we have a lot of young lawyers and lawyers that are kind of starting their own practice or kind of in the early stages. In terms of an attorney that is kind of at the beginning of their career, what would be a piece of advice that you would offer in terms of how to expand their if they wanted to grow their firm, how they should go about doing that?
I think, and I wish I would have done this 11 years ago when I started my own firm. I think hiring a coach,
yes,
a business coach is the most important thing. And really, because we're lawyers, we went to law school. I mean, how many of us took how to run a business class?
Yes,
in law
yeah,
school?
totally.
And so I think getting a coach, a business coach, is probably the most important thing you can do. If I would have done it 11 years ago, I'd probably be a $10 million firm right now. So,
yeah. But
now I'm trying to catch up. And I think that's what I advise to do. And there's a lot of good coaching services out there. There's CRISP, there's SMB. I think, was it Atticus or something is another one?
Atticus has one. Scaling Up's got one. And it doesn't even have to be a lawyer oriented one either. Just find a coach that you that maybe talk to other lawyers that have been successful and see who they use as coaching. Because even all these coaches that we have, they all have coaches too. Yeah, so they do. Yeah.
No, Michael Mogul has a coach and Bill Hauser has a coach. He has several coaches, but we all have to have coaches. And I think that's the most important thing that I didn't even know about until recently.
I totally agree. Yeah, I totally agree about you on that front, or with you on that front. And it's something that was completely lost on me for the early part of practice. It's funny because as a legal profession, we really focus on mentors and getting a mentor. I mean, a lot of law schools will help you find a mentor, or the bar will help you find a mentor, but that's more for kind of developing yourself as a lawyer and as a practitioner. And there's like a huge void in terms of this. If you're a solo owner, or you're, with a partner or two partners, small firm, there's just kind of no emphasis that, hey, you really need to go find a business mentor, a coach that can help you figure out how to get this thing off the ground and running smoothly, and then grow as you go along. And it's something that you never get out of. And I don't know why, for certain, maybe there's other professions like this, but I think for lawyers, we definitely have this maybe proud attitude that we're going to figure it out. We've got this. We survived law school. We survived the bar. We've seen other people make it work in the world. And it's always like, Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, they had a coach until they hung it up, they never stopped getting coached. I mean, it's just such the greatest performers in the world, professionals in the world, all have coaches. And so that's a huge one. I love that piece of advice. Well, thanks very much, Craig, for coming on and sharing all that with the audience. Hopefully we can get you back here at some point to continue the conversation.
Sounds great. I had a great time and great seeing you again, James.
If you found the information in this podcast to be valuable, I simply ask that you pay it forward and share this podcast with another member of the legal community. Also, if you would leave us a rating or a review on whatever platform you are listening on, I would greatly appreciate it.